Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm told that I have 20 minutes to speak. It's a good thing I'm a highly caffeinated New Yorker because I go very quickly. I've got about 150 slides to share with you in the next 20 minutes. I'm kidding. But I do want to talk to you, if we can get the slides up on the screen here, about the impact of Google for Jobs. Slides? There we go. Excellent. And so a little bit about us before I start. If you're not familiar with TMP Worldwide, we are one of the largest, if not the largest, recruitment marketing businesses in the world. We do three things, as you see in the screen behind me. We do creative brand storytelling. So we build employer value propositions, we build content and stories around it, why people should work for your business. We do digital distribution of those stories through either our Talent Brew marketing platform or career sites or social media or anything else. And then we put meaningful metrics and insights against it to get better and smarter as we go forward. It's about improving and optimization. That's my whole story about who we are. It was easy and done. When you think about it, I wanted to start by giving you some sense of some general SEO trends. Search is important. We know that. It's been important for a very long time. And as you look at some of the general trends, you'll start to see that Google has made a lot of updates. I think they made 10 updates in the last year and a half alone to the way that they do search. And so you'll notice on the left-hand side, you start to see a new version of search. It used to be a long list of blue links, and now what you start to see is they're aggregating in the top section there several items that are about the thing you searched for. And you'll see that they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 by us, just so you can see. If you look for Guardian jobs, you'll see it says find a job, look in London, charity jobs in London, schools, etc. So they're starting to compress them to make them better for the user experience, because Google is about making the user experience great. The other thing you'll notice is they're starting at the very bottom now to start to pull in tweets. So social content's really important. Real-time conversation is really important. And what they're seeing is that there is content that they're surfacing around the things that people are searching for. So again, contextually, they're starting to change the way they deliver search. On the right-hand side, you'll see, again, just the regular search string. Another update that they've made, which is interesting, is we no longer have just 10 results on a page. What you start to see is if you look for jobs in Dubai as an example, what they start to give you is snippets of information that help you refine the search. Because it's not really about searching, it's about finding. And what they're giving you here is the ability to recognize, is that the content I'm looking for before I click? They're saving you the bad experience. The other things that they're starting to do is to change the way ads work. So on the left-hand side is the old way prior to 2016, where you used to see these bright yellow or bright orange, I apologize, I'm colorblind, links that said ad, right? They're paid for content. And what you started to see on the right-hand side of that same left-hand image was a bunch of paid ads that are down the right-hand column of the Google response. They've no longer done that. They've refined it. And on the right-hand side, post-2016, what you start to see is that if you do the same search, those ads that you saw with those bright yellow markers are now much more subtle visually. And what you end up doing is you end up competing with your organic search against paid. So they've changed the way employers have to market their jobs. And they've gotten rid of that right-hand rail, so there's no longer that contextual ad column going down the side. They've started to integrate it all for the seeker, whether it's a consumer or a candidate. Looking ahead, they've also started to provide what they call snippets. And they're really powerful. So if you look at a snippet, if you want to learn how to tie a tie, and I'll confess I haven't worn a tie more than twice a year in the last 10 years, so I might have forgotten. But if you want to know how to do it, you can type in how to tie a tie, and it will give you a snippet at the very top there that says, here's how you tie a Windsor knot. And it'll give you step-by-step instructions. So what they're doing is they're saying, rather than forcing the searcher to go to Google and then go somewhere else to find a result and then perhaps have to re-navigate the site upon which they landed, they're not giving you the answer right there in Google. They're keeping you on that property. So what they're doing is they're taking information that's readily available and they're saying, how do we rank that? How useful is it to our user? So if I'm searching for a job, the question becomes, how relevant is your content? How good is your job description? Is it giving the job seeker what they want, and can I surface that information for them? The other example here, starting to get into things like that, is how to apply to be a police officer. And it tells you the step-by-step things that you need to do, and they also tell you other questions that people ask that are relevant to the same search. So again, you're helping to find new information. So as we look at Google's behavior, and we start thinking about what they've done in the consumer world, right? The candidate becomes a consumer. They want the same things. They behave the same way. Google recognized that and started to deliver the same types of search results in employment-related marketing. So Here's another example of a snippet. So P&G is one of our clients globally, and one of the titles that they have as a job is a product supply engineer. So if you do a Google search and say, what is a product supply engineer, you'll get a result. And the result that you get is a description at the very top that says, kick off a challenging and rewarding engineering career with Procter & Gamble, our product supply engineers. Why did Google find that? Google found it because A, it had the search result they were looking for. The job description was incredibly well written. The job description had contextually relevant information within it. It had a search authority to it because it had been posted for a long time and started to be recognized. And what somebody got back was an answer to a question that was actually the job description. And that's, again, an important driver. You start to see it does the same thing on Product Supply Engineer, but what it's doing here is Google's now pulling in snippets of video content. We did a video about being a product supply engineer. And now you're starting to see that people consume information differently. They don't just read anymore. They want to see things visually. Well, we're pulling the video content into this, and Google is then pulling it into the search result. There's real power there. So SEO isn't just about Google. I'm talking about them for a reason because I'm going to talk about Google for Jobs in a moment. But when you think about SEO, SEO is really important because it covers multiple properties, right? You've got Bing, Yahoo, you've got DuckDuck, you've got Baidu, you've got YouTube, you've got all these other search places. And what's happened is you've started to see that different kinds of search strings are being performed. When you look at some of the data, here's the data. On the left-hand side, if you looked at length of search query, the predominance was a single word search. As you move further to the right, with 10 or more words, there are very few of them. That has started to change. If you think about it, you wonder why. And the answer is interesting and not very surprising, but you have to really think contextually again about what's happening. Take a look at the data. When you think about using Siri on your iPhone, or if you use Alexa, those searches are powered by Bing. And they're voice searches. And when you ask something of Siri or Alexa, you don't say product supply job. You say, Alexa, please help me find a product supply job in Mumbai. Right? The length of queries changes. And what that means is your job descriptions have to change. You have to make sure you start to include the relevant information that the job seeker looks for and that the search engines are looking for. This goes back to that first circle. It's about being good storytellers. It's about being good storytellers in the jobs that you're providing and the way that you talk about your business. So again, let's think about innovation, new tools that are coming along, and how they will impact the job seeker experience. How people use those tools to find you and the jobs that you offer. So let's get into Google now, again, the topic of the conversation today, and what they've done in the job space. So Google's a fascinating business. I won't talk about anything but search. But when you talk about Google search, what they've done is they have constantly, as I've shown you examples, refined how they give you a great experience. Not how you search for something, but how you find what you're looking for. How many of you have traveled and used a website to find a flight? Raise your hand, yeah? Yep, a lot of people, great. And when you do that, you don't say that I'm going to fly from Delhi to New York and I want to go at 3 p.m., right? You say I want to fly from Delhi to New York. And what you get back are all the results that fly from Delhi to New York. And then you start to use what we call faceted search. And you say, I want to fly in the morning, and it takes away half the results. You say, I want to fly on this particular airline. It takes away a lot of other results. And you start to see that faceting helps you refine. Well, Google's been doing that without you knowing it necessarily. They've been helping you refine your search results by giving you different things. And so what's happened is, again, they've given you that contextually relevant result that you're looking for, and they give you the power to then refine it further. So with Google and Jobs, they've started to look at three things. They've done Google for Jobs, which is individual job listings, and I'll talk about that in detail in a minute. It's live in the US. We don't know when it's going to Europe, and we certainly don't know about the rollout in the rest of the world. Only Google knows, and they're not telling. But again, it's individual job listings. The second piece of what they've put together is what we call the Google Cloud Job API. The API is a beta program. We're part of the program. There are people doing stuff in it. Nobody's really discussed what's happening. And the thing about it is it's a plug-in for a career site. It will help refine the jobs that your site delivers to the job seeker. So again, not much known about it, and again, that's the second plug of the program. The third piece is what they call Google Hire. You've heard a lot of news about it lately if you've been reading. And basically, it's the ability to use the Google Suite, Gmail, Calendar, all that kind of stuff, to build out your own communications tool and potentially even a full ATS. So your recruiters have a suite of services that are fully integrated that work very well. And again, as we've seen, if you use Gmail and you use Google Search, they've already integrated them well from the consumer experience side. It starts to deliver contextually relevant ads to you about things that are in your email. Now they're going to start to work with your recruiting team to deliver that. But again, I'm not talking about the second or third platform here. I'm talking best about the first. So if you look at Google for Jobs, we used to have classified ads, right? It was just a newspaper. You'd print an ad in there, and people would search through it, and they'd ring you up. And then, of course, we moved from that into job search. And you could use a job board, a Monster, a Career Builder, whatever it was. And the challenge with that job board was that you only saw the jobs that somebody had paid to post on that job board. So as a job seeker, you had to go multiple places. And then Google came along, and Google saw everything. And Google was the place to go. It became the world's largest job board. You type in the job search in Google, and it would find for you every job that was relevant to you. So as we've innovated, so has Google. And what they've said is, we recognize that this is a really important thing for us to do. So Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, announced Google for Jobs. And again, the stats that he gave were US stats, but he said 46% of US employers are having a tough time looking for talent. We've seen other data that says of the 15 largest economies based on GDP globally, they represent 70% of global GDP, 12 of them are going to have a shortage of high-skilled people. So we know that there's a challenge. And what he said is that while job seekers are looking for openings right next door, there's a big disconnect because companies can't fill jobs. So how does Google help? That was the whole idea behind this whole Google for Jobs suite. And so when you look at it, basically, the mission for Google has been, if it'll come up on the screen, let's see if where is it? There it is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And Google has the power to do it. They've got an incredible amount of money, they've got an incredible amount of people, they've got great intellectual capital, and they are now turning their focus to the world in which we all work. The HR sector is going to be transformed significantly by what Google is doing. Again, they're piloting it in the US, they will roll it out globally eventually, but I'm going to show you why it matters to you and what you can do about it. So here's some videos, and this is an example because again it's only in the US, so I had to screenshot it here and video it. But if you're looking for a retail job in Chicago, this is what happens now. All of a sudden, you see the paid ads at the top, still from Indeed and other job boards and aggregators, and there's the Google Jobs. And what you can do is you can search across those by retail, you can look by restaurant and hospitality jobs, you can drill into it. I'm still on Google, I haven't left yet. And I see a retail merchandiser job. You can see it came from Career Builder on the right-hand side there. And I can scroll through and look at other jobs. I can refine my search right there. And what it's giving me is a scrape of everything that they've aggregated from job boards, from the aggregators, and even from career sites. Now, as we go through it, and again, it'll go by city and show you all the different permutations. And I might skip through this because I've got 4 videos and not a lot of time. So I'm going to try and move pretty quickly. But what it does is it gives you the opportunity to find what you're looking for. Again, what's best for you? So just to skip ahead of this one, if I go to the next search here and I start looking for jobs at a particular company, in fact, I'll use Gap Inc. In Chicago, what I get is the same search result, right? I get the box back. There it is. It shows you all the Gap jobs. I can look for ones that are posted in the past 3 days. I can show full-time. I can show associate jobs. And as I click into it, you'll notice that the right-hand side now says View on Gap Inc. Careers. It just went by, but it pulled it from the career site. There's a job description. It pulls in Glassdoor reviews. It gives me contextually relevant mapping information, commuting time, distance, all of that right there. And then it takes me directly into the career site. The career site is a visually beautiful place. It's got great brand. It's got great stories. It gives you further information and videos around contextually relevant content and information, and it has streamlined the process. So Google's moving very quickly to give you these kinds of opportunities. Again, you can see the job details, you can save the job, you can look at recently viewed jobs, and in disclosure, that's on our Talent Brew platform, which does all that work. But again, huge opportunities for you to take advantage of this if you've got the right destination. Remember, we all talk about candidate experience. A candidate's experience is only good if they go to Google, do a search, and are delivered to a destination that delivers the answer to their search. Not someplace where they then have to re-input their search and search again to find it. So again, what Google's doing here is drilling deeper into your career site. And I'll give you some stats in a minute, show you why that matters. If you look at the next video, it comes up and plays. Here we go. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for Microsoft jobs. And as it powers along, you'll see again the same search results. And it gives you the opportunity to drill down. As it drills, it shows me more jobs, and it'll take me out to LinkedIn. Same example as a career site, just showing you that it's surfacing it from other places. You'll get the idea that it's on LinkedIn, and in the interest of only having 6 minutes left, I'm going to skip ahead. The final video says, I'd like to find part-time jobs at $15 an hour. And what it's going to do is it's going to find me every job in Chicago that is a part-time job at $15 an hour. It'll take me through and it'll show me what I have to do that. It'll take me back to the site. But again, the search power of Google is being applied to the employment space. So the candidates now have much more power than they ever did, right? It's harder for you now to make sure your job is surfaced to them. So I'll give you some recommendations in a second about how to do that. But again, their parameters are very, very powerful. So why does it matter? And this is all the takeaway. So it's about knowing, not guessing. As I mentioned to you before, the digital part of what we do is our Talent Brew platform, and because of that, we've got some interesting insights. So we have more than 330, I think, clients live on it globally, big companies, small companies, but major organizations using it. And when they use it, we capture data. So last year, we got some really interesting insights. Last year, 282 million individual unique users used all of our Talent Brew platforms. And we captured data from every single one of them. We looked across it. We had 17 million hours spent on the site. We captured data in terms of what they do with it. We had 1.7 million jobs posted. We had 101 million searches done just across our Talent Brew search platform. We had 1.2 billion page views. You get it. There's some scale here, right? Some size. And we start to look at that. Almost 91 million apply clicks, 14 million completed applications, 231,000 hires. There's some data. So I'm going to share with you some of the insights that we got from that show you why Google for Jobs matters. So 2/3 of the job seekers that we saw came from a search engine. 2/3, 66% came from a search engine. When you start to think about what that means, 65% of the career site sessions start on a page that isn't the home page. They're going deep because what's happening is a search engine is delivering them to a job description or to some kind of content. So they're going somewhere directly in the site. When we think about what that means is as much as 90% of the people that come to your site won't apply in the first visit. And that matters because they want to find content and stories. When you dig into it, the average person who comes and visits Glassdoor and reads content is 7 bits of content or media. The person who doesn't go to a Glassdoor profile only sees 3. Now, interesting data points. Does it matter? And the answer is yes. Because a candidate that goes to Glassdoor in this example is 30% more likely to be hired. Not to apply, but to be hired. Because what they're doing is they're self-selecting in or out based on the content that they're reading. They're trying to find information about your business. They're looking at your brand. They're trying to figure out what's the job really like. That's what Google's doing. Google's looking for that same information, and it is now going to put it into Google results. So if you're not telling your story well, you're going to lose out on Google. If you're not SEO optimized, you're going to lose out on Google. When you start to look at it, the average job description, this is fascinating to me. On a global basis, the average job description is 513 words. That takes 2 minutes and 37 seconds to read for an average reader. Of the 282 million people that used our Talent Brew platform last year, only 38% of them spent that long on a page. That means job descriptions aren't working. It means they're not doing the job that they need to do because they're not giving visual information. They're not sharing what people need to see. More than 80% of page views on a career site are job descriptions. So if we start to look at that, 44% of the completed applications came from someone who saw nothing more than a job description. And what Google's looking for are good job descriptions. They're looking for information about brand that shows search relevancy and gives rank authority. So this is what most organizations deliver. A plain page with a lot of text. What you should be delivering is something like what AT&T does, which is a visually rich job description. It's basically a career site in itself. It's got a success profile. It's got the ability to share it. It gives you realistic job previews and video content about it. It brings Glassdoor rankings into it. It talks about skills and qualifications. And if a job seeker saw nothing but that, it's enough to make a decision. And if Google finds it, it's enough for Google to move you up to the top of the rankings because it actually has real information in it. So, to wrap up, my recommendations for you. We don't know when Google hire is coming here. We don't know what their expansion plans are. But what you need to be doing now is making sure you have absolutely vitally strong SEO. If your jobs aren't optimized and your brand isn't optimized, you have a problem. You need to have great job descriptions that talk about the quality of the role. You need to include video content because Google will index it. You need to have employees telling their stories around it. You need contextually relevant information. You need locations and commuting times and opportunities because otherwise you won't be found by Google. That contextually relevant content, more important than ever. Tell your stories. You need to have a compelling employer brand, which you're all building already, and you need to be engaging storytellers. And if you're not, it's a challenge. So, thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it. If you've got questions, I'll be in the booth all day, and I'm here if anybody wants to ask anything now.